Yeah, welcome everyone. This is our first support workshop of the new academic year. Um, I'm Holly. I've hosted a few of them in the last year. You might have attended, or this might be your first one. We've got Ellie monitoring the chat and the sort of Zoom session in general. So if there's any sort of sound issues, or if you do have any questions, we'll pop through those at the end. So like it says on here, it's a general onboarding workshop. So it's kind of like a broader overview just in terms of how you can best prepare for the year ahead, things like viewing your class trackers and general sort of migration queries as well, just so we can talk you through what we've been doing in the last few weeks or so. So just to head right into it. I have a test school up on here at the minute, so it looks slightly more sparse than I'm guessing your schools might look like at the moment. But like you might have seen as well, if I click into, say, GCSE drama just for the moment, you'll see that we have a new look to the trackers. So for people that were logging in for the first time, you will have had a support video that popped up just sort of to denote the changes. If it is the case that you would like us to send that through again, please do get in touch with us. We'd be happy to kind of send that video along because even us here at Pupil Progress have found that to be really helpful just to kind of introduce the slight changes. The biggest one that's happened at the moment, you'll notice that previously the tools bar and toggles were up at the top here. You'll notice that down below, they've kind of moved over to the side just to make it more easily accessible, which is quite beneficial. We'll run through those features in kind of a more extensive workshop in the future. So be sure to keep an eye out for invites that we'll send along. I think the biggest one that we kind of want to raise following feedback is if you click through to view now, you're actually able to hide the current grade within the tracker to the right-hand side. So that was something that was quite highly requested, and that's something that we've been able to action, which is a big benefit. So yeah, that was just a really quick introduction there. But just to take it back to the home page here. So we did just want to kind of start off and talk through a little bit regarding school setup, just to kind of talk you through what we have done in the previous few weeks, whether it be getting your school migrated from the previous year or set up completely from scratch. So you'll notice that this is a synced school. Just at the moment, we haven't refreshed our MIS that it's connected to. So you'll notice that we've got these symbols here. But essentially what we'd done in July is we'd sent out a form to schools just to kind of get some further insight into how you're wanting your school to be set up for the academic year. So with the continuing courses from last year, year 10s got migrated into year 11s and year 12s into year 13s. We asked for the information within the form just to give us some sort of further insight into how you wanted your school to be set up, which was really beneficial. So if you're perhaps noticing that any sort of specifications are out of date or anything like that, we might not have received a form, so we're more than happy to kind of get those changes amended for you as well. Essentially, if we had no information to go by, we do get the school set up bespoke to your needs, so we will have set them up mirroring your previous academic year. So if I click on add new class here, we will have just used this auto suggest trackers and based the courses on your last academic year or so. You might be wondering sort of why we bring this up now that the setup has actually happened, but we just kind of want to provide you with the tools that you might need so that you can reach out to raise these things if there's something that you need changing. If it's the case that perhaps you're noticing, for instance, one of your GCSE drama classes are missing, we pull these through straight from your MIS if you are synced to the platform. So we would click through on here and press synchronize class lists. Typically, we have flagged to schools if it's the case we haven't been able to pull something through. So it will say that no classes currently match the subject choice here. So if it is the case that you're noticing that something's missing, what we tend to need from you is the class name. If you do have the subject name as well as the class code, that's also a really big benefit. Because essentially what we can navigate through and do on support is check the back end of the integration just to see if we can get it remapped and reworked essentially so that it does pull through here to get that synced for you. So yeah, it's always beneficial to make a note of the tracker name, the class name, subject code and subject name as well. Just because when you reach out on this little icon here, you can sort of be clicked into any class, but we won't be able to view the class from our end. So we navigate through following communication as to which tracker you're in, things like that. So it just makes it slightly easier for us to help you further. If it is the case that you have perhaps changed specification, just to let you know as well, if there's any data within a tracker, we will always leave it on the system as well, just so you can kind of have a click through and see what you're wanting to do with that. Say, for instance, you were using GCSE and English language AQA last year, and now you're using Edexcel. We will have still migrated your data along. We will just leave it for you to kind of see if you're wanting to download that data and export it in the future. However, if it is the case that you're no longer needing a certain tracker and you've obtained all of the data, just feel free to send us a message and we'll get that resolved for you. So if I just move on, let me just scroll down slightly. You'll notice as well, if I click through to add new class, I'll just click through to this sync one that's available for MIS connected schools. You'll notice that we've got various sort of subject areas. So if I click through on maths, we've got a list of qualifications and specifications as well. So say, for instance, I was to click through onto GCSE maths. If it was the case that your specification isn't listed, feel free to send a message through to us as well, just including the what we call the QAN code. It just allows us to kind of navigate through to find a spec, and we'll assign a ticket to get it built for you quite happily. We do just want to flag as well. So say, for instance, usually with vocational courses like health and social care, things like that, it might be the case that it is the correct qualification that you're on, but it's always worth clicking through on here. So if I just click the three dots, edit tracker options for the year group, you'll be able to see the optional units that you can select. So it's always worth sort of clicking on here to see if any of the units were hidden, especially with things like migration. So year 12 into year 13, it might be the case that the data is still on the tracker itself. The unit that you need might not be selected. So if you reselect those units, that data will pull through for you. Similarly, if I click through on to tracking here at the home page and then assessments, if I go to say psychology, you'll see that we've got a few customized assessments available here within the assessment list. If I click on quick edit, you're able to pick and choose which assessments are visible on the front end of the tracker. So linking that to migration, if you're noticing that any data doesn't look to be present compared to the last year, it might be the case again that your assessment is on here within the assessment list, but it's just hidden. So you would just need to click through here and make it visible again and kind of view your tracker on the front end. So those are just some quick FAQs as to why things might look slightly different. Also during the migration process, one of the questions on the form just prompted to whether you'd want us to add year 7, 8, and 9 trackers. These aren't migrated, they're kind of set up from scratch, but we will have pulled through any classes that we can see and have gotten those added in line with what you need there. So yes, we've had a few schools come through as well, just about getting target grades uploaded, of course, in time for your exam season. Just to let you know, this is kind of dealt with by the onboarding team when it comes to getting those targets uploaded. So there will be some more guidance regarding MTGs and target grades communicated in the next week or so, just so you have that information to hand. It will kind of denote the format in which it needs to be sent in, where to send it to, things like that. So you will have some further insight shortly. It's also important to mention as well, a slightly more recent update is if I just click through to my school, I'm logged in as a school admin, which is why I can kind of view all of these features. But if I go to my school and school details, you'll see that there's the option for the school admin now to lock the MTGs. So if it is the case that you are wanting to consider that, or if it's something that the school wants, if you just mention that when the target grades are sent through, we'll actively get that logged on the ticket. So we'll bulk upload those targets for you and then get these locked as well. So yes, that's the first section ran through. Of course, we've got the Q&A at the end, so if there are any questions, we'll be happy to kind of go back over those. We will have a more in-depth sort of assessment session a few weeks into the year, just to kind of talk you through in more detail, adding assessments and things like that. But say, for instance, if I click through to drama for the moment, if it is the case that you're wanting to get an assessment added, and perhaps the assessment that you would like isn't there, so if it's the more recent 2024 series that you've sat, if you're noticing that it's not listed, just feel free to send through a message to us, just so we can get a ticket assigned to our tech support team to get those papers uploaded. Typically, the papers are behind sort of a paywall or something like that. So it's just a process of us trying to navigate through and find a PDF file so we can quality assure and upload those. If you have got access to anything that might be helpful, you're more than welcome to kind of communicate that across to us, and we can kind of quality assure and see if it is suitable for upload across the platform. Also as well, which can be quite useful, let's click into English. If I go onto tools and grade boundaries, if you're noticing, so we've got the June 2024, but if it ever is the case that you're noticing that an exam board grade boundary isn't yet listed, just feel free to check that with us, because essentially the tech support team are always going to be working on something, but with our ticketing process, we can kind of track and see how to prioritize these tasks. We can see how many people are kind of reaching out, and we can also loop you in as a point of contact on the ticket, just so you are informed when it is complete. It also allows us to kind of let you know the times in which the team is at peak load trying to get all these papers and things uploaded for you. So it just allows us to kind of give you a clearer time frame as to when things might be available for you. Linking the grade boundary side of things with, say, for instance, a vocational, so in this instance, a BTEC tracker. We're aware that for the BTECs, the grade boundaries kind of get released as separate units. So we do aim to get them uploaded as they are published by the exam boards on the website and things like that. So if you are noticing that perhaps on this BTEC website, a certain unit has been updated regarding the grade boundaries, but they're not yet mirrored on the platform, just reach out to let us know, and we'd be happy to further investigate that as well. Because yes, it is important that the grade boundaries are all up to date. And moving on, so with the staff section, you'll notice here that we have teacher names listed alongside each. As the classes currently aren't syncing, you'll notice that if I click into this class here, go to edit tracker options, you'll see that I'm able to click and change the teacher name for the classes in general. For a synchronized school, so with syncing classes, so there'll be a tick here for syncing classes. If it is the case that you're wanting to sort of change the teachers that are assigned to each class, it would be a case of getting that updated on your MIS system, and the group call sync between your MIS and the pupil progress platform, that will kind of refresh every 24 hours or so, just to pull through those changes. If it is the case that even after this, say for instance, Mr. Atkinson still hasn't pulled through to correct class, it's typically the case that on your MIS, a work email address isn't listed, or the actual teacher themselves is listed as support staff. So it'll just be the case that double checking that the email address for the staff member is listed, and double checking that they are listed as a teacher as well. Because just for security purposes, we don't pull support staff from the MIS, as we know that the sort of list of support staff within a school is quite expansive, and they might not always be needing access to the platform, essentially. Similarly, with class list changes, that would be a case of getting that updated on your MIS, and we would pull that through about 24 hours or so later. Another thing to note as well is that, say for instance, I had students within 10X and 10Y drama classes. If the same student was listed in these classes twice, they would kind of bounce back and forth between the two, as they can only exist in one class at the one time if they're assigned to the same tracker. So if you're noticing that your class list looks slightly skewed, it'd be the case that perhaps they're within the two classes at the same time. So it's just a good idea to keep an eye on that as well. So if I just look through to this section, so the My School and Staff section, you'll notice here that we have various staff members pull through. And like I mentioned before, it's just the case that only staff that are listed as teacher will pull through to on the actual sync. So if you have any support staff, they won't get pulled through to this section. You're more than welcome to add staff manually. Where this means you just add the first, last name, email. They'll just be a manual staff member, so the actual name won't pull alongside the classes, but they'll still be able to set up a login onto the platform and things like that, which can be quite beneficial. Something that can be quite good to look at just from a school admin side of things is if you look at the status of staff here. So you'll see, say for instance, if Mary reaches out to you and she hasn't got a login set up yet, you can navigate through to My School and Staff and click these three dots here to send out an invitation email. If I go through to someone else. So say, for instance, Toby reaches out to you to say, I haven't got a login onto the platform. If you can see here that their status is set as active, they may have set up a login before, but it was quite a while ago and they're not too sure of the actual credentials. If they go to log in as normal, they can click through to forgotten password. All they would need to do is input their staff email and they'd get a password reset link. So that can sometimes be a lot easier than getting them set up again completely from scratch. So it's always good to keep an eye on the status of the staff member as well. And just in regards to staff logins as well, something that we get through quite often is people sort of signing up, logging in for the first time, and they'll say perhaps my GCSE drama classes aren't listed. Logged in as a school admin, and I can see that there are drama classes on there, so it would just be the case of clicking through to staff, having a look. If I look at John's information here, I can see that he's only been assigned as a teacher of English. So in reality, the drama classes are there. They would just need to be assigned the correct sort of permission. So they can either be set as a teacher of or a leader of for drama, and then it will pull through and they'll be able to view those classes. If you've been set up as a teacher of, it's important to note that if you click into live tracking, you'll be able to view these features, so the assessment features as well as the grade boundary features. However, you won't be able to make any changes. So they are limited currently to either school admins or leaders of. If it is the case that you need those permissions updated, feel free to reach out to your school admin and they can do that really quickly just via the method that I'd shown. So My School and Staff, they would just click through to edit and get you assigned the correct sort of permission levels there. So it is very easy to do. If in doubt, feel free to message us and we can also check kind of who is the school admin within the school and forward your query along as well if needed. Another really quick one and something that is always good to get set up at the start of the year is if I click through to My School and Learning Characteristics, this will allow you to sort of set up more behavioural sort of markers with students. So say, for instance, we've got here attitude to learning, effort, resilience, home learning, independent learning, and organisation. With the classes that we've migrated, these characteristics will get carried forward as well. So year 10 into year 11 and year 12 into year 13. If you are wanting to set up new ones, you're more than welcome to do so. However, it will impact upon data that's already been collected. So if you are wanting to check that with us, feel free to do so. If I click on this here, you'll see that we've got default features, but you are also able to add your own sort of descriptors to it. So if I was to put excellent in place of exemplary, what would happen here is you're able to input a numerical value and it will give a descriptor for the student, which can be quite good when it comes to sort of home learning, perhaps how their attitude is when it comes to homework, things like that. If I was to apply this now, so add selected learning characteristics to the trackers, the feature itself would lock after adding one. So if it is the case that you are needing to add sort of multiple to get to get ahead of the year, you're able to do so. You just need to reach out to us and we would unlock it so that you can add each of those characteristics in. Something that can be good just as a standard practice before you make any changes, whether that be to the trackers or the learning characteristics in general, is school admins can actually click through to here, so My School and Snapshots, and they can just add a new school level snapshot, which is essentially it's like a screenshot of everything as it is in that current moment. So how your learning characteristics had looked at the point of migration, classes, assessment data, things like that. It's kind of good to just add these throughout the years anyway, just so you do have access to those. And that is kind of everything at the moment, just in terms of general setup. Like I mentioned, we'll go through in more detail in following workshops when it comes to things like adding assessments, adding in kind of an exam series as well. That's something that we're happy to go through. We did just want to note as well, finally, that schools that wanted Key Stage 3 classes added, if they don't have a sort of bespoke setup, we add a standard pupil progress 9-to-1 and mastery tracker. So I would say if you're noticing that you do have that for the school, have a click into it and a play around. It has a topic summary listed as well as a summary grade section. And then you would just click in to these assessment features to add in your own tests and get them linked to these topic sections. If you have any sort of further questions about perhaps a bespoke setup, if you're a whole school and you're kind of wanting to test out different things for your subject area, if you get in touch with us below, so in the bottom right, you have access to all of the Help Centre articles. You can book in a call here as well. Typically, if it is the case that you have questions about Key Stage 3 and you're perhaps wanting to trial something slightly different for your department or see how best pupil progress can kind of work in that sense, if you just send us through a general message, we'd be happy to get in touch with your account manager regarding that as well. And just a final one, we tend to send out the registration links for the support workshop here. It'll pop up as a message. If you do have any sort of support queries or questions, if you start those as a new sort of conversation, they come through to support a lot more quickly and easier. So we can actually sort of see your queries, where when it's a response to an automated message, it's not as easy as for us to get back to you. So we definitely want you to send sort of a fresh conversation so that we can get back to your query as soon as possible. So yeah, that is everything for the moment. I'll hand it over to Ellie just to read through the chat, as there's probably quite a few questions as I did kind of whiz through that.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Holly. That was brilliant, really useful. Yeah, so just a couple of questions I can see. So first one, is there an easy way to see students targeted for intervention? There was a marker next to them before, thanks. So this might just be that your tags haven't been enabled on the particular tracker or yeah, haven't been re-added. So yeah, Holly can maybe quickly demonstrate just if you're on the tracker itself, you should be able to re-enable or create a tag again to
Yeah.
set up that intervention group.
So yeah, that's a good point. So if I click through to psychology, I believe there's some that should be created anyway. So if I go on to tools and enable tagging, I'll just click on to configure here. And you'll see that there are students currently assigned to a tag. It might just be the case, like Ellie mentioned, that it's hidden. So if I just go to test, active, save and close, yeah, we'll see that it's there, and I can start to add in a few more students again. And then the blue dot just indicates that it's saving. As soon as that's removed, the save is done, and then you can go back to your home page and they'll be listed within this section here.
Yeah, fab. Thank you, Holly, for going through that. And then another quick question, can a class be attached to more than one tracker, e.g. our Set 1 Maths does GCSE and the Level 2 certificate? So yeah, I think Holly briefly mentioned earlier, if they're in multiple classes within for the same specification, like same qualification, then no, they'll kind of switch between two classes. But if it's a completely separate qualification like that that example would be you've got the GCSE maths and level 2 certificate, then yes, they can be in both because it will be a completely separate tracker for that.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, sorry, go on, Holly.
Just a kind of like more recent development as well. We had it quite a lot with, for instance, subject areas like food and nutrition, hospitality and catering. We can now link classes to sort of different subject areas as well if needed. So it navigates around what was previously an obstacle. But yeah, similar to what Ellie mentioned, that's completely fine.
And then if we've got time for these last two, Holly,
Yeah.
just very quickly, someone has asked, how do I view students' things to work on, please? I don't know if you could just quickly demonstrate where to kind of highlight in the tracker or a good place to, yeah, see in the tracker.
Yeah. I'll perhaps look at last year's data. I'm just thinking of where there'll be data listed on these trackers. Let me have a look in here. We are on a test school currently, so it's just a case of
Yeah,
looking
it's a little bit
for
difficult,
the
isn't it?
trackers that have the data in. You know what? Let's click into the drama one for now because there was actually drama in there. So, what you'll notice here is we've got the minimum target section where you can input the target grade. So what I'd mentioned, our onboarding team will work to bulk upload for you. A quick visual indicator for people that have these minimum targets is you can see here that blue indicates that they're above their target, orange indicates that they're one grade off, and then green would be on target, and if they were in the red, that would mean they were um, two or more grades below target. Something that can be good in terms of class view is this is an average section at the top, so you can kind of see how students are doing across your class cohort. And for each question, so these lighter sections here, if you click onto the section, it ranks or filters students by kind of their performance in each question. So this is doing top down. And then if I click again, it will be bottom up. So say, for instance, if Sadie had like a 10 or something, and then Justin had a 12, it would go by order of that. Um, and then it's slightly over towards the right, you can do the same again. So you can see a breakdown of perhaps unit marks for each of these, which can be really beneficial. And you can do sort of average unit grades. You can filter and rank by there. So there are kind of methods to more quickly identify perhaps students that are needing a little bit of extra support. And then you can even set up a tag following that as well. So you could then filter and actually filter by the tag that you'd created. So there are a lot of ways in which you can do that. And similar to what I mentioned, if you are kind of struggling with that, you're more than welcome to book in a call and we'll run through it with some real student data as well.
Yeah, fab. Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Holly. And then just really quickly, lastly, we've just got one time for one more. How can you alter a tracker from GCSE to vocational? Yeah, with this one, it's a case of kind of re-adding that class into the new specification. So as Holly's running through now, you would essentially just have to set up the class again under the new qualification, and then you can quite quickly delete the old one. So yeah, it would just be a case of adding the new class as you can see on the screen now. But of course, if you know you've not done that before, or you'd like us to run through it with you, then as Holly mentioned, please feel free to get in touch with the help chat or book a call, and we can always run it through with you as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, I think that's us. Like, yeah, we're pretty much at time now. That was great, Holly. Thank you so much for running through that. And yeah, we'll be sending the recording out hopefully over the next couple of days.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining, guys. And like I've mentioned as well, we will have future workshops sort of every 2 weeks that will go into things in more detail. So if that was kind of a lot, to sort of run through in half an hour, we're well aware, and we're going to be scheduling ones further into the academic year as well.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay,
Thanks,
bro. Thanks
everyone.
so much, guys.
Bye bye.